warm right now, but things are going to get started here on Cloud Kingdom, which is kind of an interesting setting for a TBT.
Yeah, that's very interesting, especially because we just talked about how both of these players like to use the bio expansion play, but Cloud Kingdom is a map that in Terran vs. Terran, a lot of people have been playing mech on it because the ease of access towards the natural and third base to hold that front line, and then it's this very simple hop, skip, and jump towards the opponent's side of the map where of course mech play can become ever so strong.
And it looks like we are in the map now. So here at the top right-hand corner of Cloud Kingdom, we have our red Terran player, representative of the team, Evil Geniuses. Give it up for PuMa. And his opponent down in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, our blue Terran player from TSL, it is Polt.
The thing is with PuMa, though, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to play a very standard style. In the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship, in the semi-final when he played against MMA, he tried a very standard style and was like, dude, MMA is so good, I actually can't go toe-to-toe with the guy.
Yeah.
And that's when we saw him pull out aggression in games 2, 3, and 4 straight away and just abuse the fact that if he manages to successfully pull off aggression versus a player trying to take the economic advantage, you lead to such an incredible strong mid-game, if not that win early.
Well, we'll see what both these players end up going with now as Polt putting down a supply deal with the front. Same thing for PuMa as well, so both opting to at least get some vision of any incoming SCVs. We'll certainly see what their plan is after that. You kind of touched on that space that actually sits in between the natural and the third, as well as gas first now popping out for PuMa at the moment. Polt's going with a more traditional barracks first. But that spot in between the natural and the third, Seashanks can actually sit and range both of those ramps if they're positioned appropriately. So could lead towards a very, very interesting late game, but PuMa, already starting with that gas first, certainly has a little bit of tech in mind at least.
Yeah, I mean, that's his plan here is aggression. That's what the refinery means before, because you get the insurge of gas, and then you're able to get the factory down as soon as the barracks completes. But on the other side of things, we also see gas going down from Polt, not as early, but just after the barracks. So he actually also wants to get a factory up, whether it will be for Cloak Banshee of his own. I mean, both of the guys can show aggression. It also depends on if they get the double gas or not. They can stay on a single gas and just use Hellion, Medivac, and so on, and those kind of plays. But still, I mean, it's very much open. But one thing is for certain is that we are going to be seeing quite an explosive start between these two players.
Now, did PuMa just have 2 SCVs on gas? Because his gas collection rate was actually quite a bit slower there. Looks like there's full 3 now, but of course his factory is going to come a little bit later. Usually finishes up right when that barracks does end as well. But he'll eventually get that down. Polt gets a pretty good scout and does see how late. Oh, there we go. The factory actually being put towards the edge of the main. Of course, if we see a starport end up after that, it's as close of a fly distance without proxying a structure as you can get.
And Polt has a natural advantage in this game. And the reason for that is because the early gas, yes, it gives you a few seconds, but if you keep in consideration the travel distance between the two bases, that advantage is now thrown out the window. As only that counts if Polt plays on the defensive side, which he should do because he chose the more mineral-focused opening, of course, the refinery getting a bit later. So it looks like we will see Polt play the more defensive and just accept whatever PuMa decides to throw at him. We haven't seen the second gas go down yet for PuMa, so it looks like he's just going to be going for a starport here, and it could be just for a regular single Banshee without anything here, or it could be for like Hellion production or anything along those lines. But we do see the starport with a tech lab next to the barracks, so it looks like we're going to see a single Banshee without cloak, and on the other side we saw the double gas, so it looks like a potential cloak Banshee opening here from Polt.
With 2 guys that play very aggressively, I was almost waiting for that proxy marauder build as well. We of course just cast the Tournament of Champions at the IPL, and one of the, I think it popped in about 30% of the TVTs was some form of proxy marauder builds. Still a little bit of trickery here with that factory on the low ground. Hellion's already starting to pop out now, and Polt's a little bit slower, of course, on that starport, but both players are going to have those on tech labs pretty quickly. Back at Polt's side of things, yeah, just setting that down now.
And the difference between these two players is all about intelligence in the game right now and scouting intel. The scouting Hellion now, and now I say Hellion because that's the only scout that he's had the entire game long. He has no idea about gas timings. He doesn't know if Cloak is on the way or if it's not. So he actually doesn't have an engineering bay down. He doesn't have any defense against potential Cloak Banshees. Where on the other side of things, I mean, Polt is already building a Viking. You know, he's well prepared for what potentially could come from PuMa. So just because of that early scout, he has such an advantage in this this game. But we do have the command center coming down for PuMa now. But the thing is, how is he going to follow this up? Because right now we do not have the command center down for Polt, who's of course investing in such heavy aggression, and even a tech lab coming down, or reactor, sorry, coming down on the factory.
Now, you mentioned the defensive game before from Polt, and that's exactly what we're seeing with that Viking first, but he's still following this up with Cloak Banshees afterwards, which is going to hit very, very soon. He had a bunch of Marines sitting inside of his mineral line, though, just in case, already patrolling back and forth with the Viking as well. Now, his own Cloak Banshee is going to be making his way at his opponent's base. Back on PuMa's side of things, that command center just finishing up. He's already putting down some missile turrets, though we see those getting queued up for the time being.
And because he didn't scout, he kind of had to scan. So he had to use a scan there to see this coming. And now he has the intel to throw down those turrets. But in comes the Banshee, and this is without cloak, and immediately thrown back. A big investment thrown out the window there.
Yeah, very good defense from Polt, and he has gone untouched, of course. Still no command center out of him, so we'll see how strong of an attack he wants. There we go, finally, command center being put down right now for Polt. Back on PuMa's side, of course, he is producing a Viking of his own. He's got missile turrets prepared as well. The cloak is finished for Polt, but we'll see how much use he can actually get out of it.
Yeah, that's true. There's still holes, though. The turrets cover both the mineral lines, but, ooh, I can't believe those turrets didn't actually hit anything there, the missile, sorry.
Yeah.
But he does go into the radius there of that turret, and it's thrown back in. Likewise, the investment hasn't really paid off here either, but still, if he forces a scan and still manages to escape out, that, of course, is still going to pay back.
Hasn't killed anything quite yet, though, and the Vikings are actually in hot pursuit, so we'll see if they're able to catch after that. And was that the only Banshee that was produced on the units tab?
There is a second one coming into the natural now, but once again, it's still not really going to be able to get anything. Hopefully, he can try to get one or two SCVs, but looks like the Banshee, the top left, has been cornered. A single scan will get rid of it. Did he not see it there, maybe?
No, he didn't. He's backing away, so the Banshee is going to survive for now. And look at this, some units making their way up for Polt right now. Marines moving through the middle of the map, but again, another Banshee picked up on it, sitting inside of the detection range, and scan! And the Marines move up and pick that Banshee off.
The other Banshee, though, is in the top left, coming into the main, but there is a couple of holes there around the gas where you can potentially pick off SCVs there. We do have this small little squad of Marines chase back in, and he has to be so careful not to leave that bunker radius, actually. But it does look like we are going to see mech coming out from PuMa here, but on the other hand, we have a more traditional style of the Marine into the tank play from Polt.
Yeah, so let's see here now as that Banshee just starting to make its way back into the main. Pick off a couple of SCVs here, but it shouldn't be long before PuMa reacts, and indeed he has, and this Banshee is going to fall very quickly. Polt not really getting a lot out of that.
And there was another Banshee actually died on the natural there to the turret also, so lost both there, hasn't really gained anything, but it's not really penetrable right now. Polt can't really break any lines here. So he has to sit back here. And against this mech kind of play, the way that you should be taking advantage as the buyer player that naturally has map control in this scenario is, first of all, taking the third command center, which was seen put down here, and then potentially throwing down the double engineering base, because you're not really facing any aggression for quite a long time. The mech player is always going to be sitting back defensively, potentially taking his third base, but there is no third command center down yet here for PuMa, so he could be going for a little two-base push here instead of trying to play the more defensive, slower style.
And of course, Polt's command center is about 2/3 of the way finished, so he is fully intending on taking that third pretty soon. We'll see what sort of attack he wants to launch behind that. But we've stabilized a little bit, so we've got some time on our hands, and these players are just settling into their strategy, so not going to be a very quick TVT on our hands. And so where do we go from here? Okay, it looks like finally a third command center coming out for PuMa now, but of course significantly later than Polt's.
Yeah, significantly later, and still it doesn't look like he's trying to invest in any form of push, because if he does, then he kind of walks into or with his unsieged units, and then just gets caught off guard by stim Marines and so on. So I don't think he can really take an investment and has to sit back more defensively. But there's the double engineering bay down too. You can even take another expansion at this stage of the game too, because you're not looking for a push from a mech player till at least the 15-minute mark. So as you can see in the game clock, there's like a full 3 minutes here for Polt to do anything he wants to. But the thing is though, that as I say that you kind of naturally take map control, it's not Polt that has map control yet. We actually see PuMa 1 controlling with the Hellions on the Xel'Naga towers and also the third base location.
And so he's going to be able to pick up those Marauders running through the middle. Now, he's got little packs of units taking map control all over the place. He still has that little squadron of Vikings that was sitting, now actually floating inside of his fourth, making their way down towards the bottom right. But he's been able to pick up on aggression pretty well, prevented Polt from being able to drop effectively at all. And it looks like Polt now feeling confident enough, actually catching a medevac from PuMa floating across there with 4 Hellions inside of it. We'll see if PuMa wants to continue with this. He's going to drop inside of the main. Is Polt ready? Will he bring those units back in time? Blue Flame is done. He's finally pulling away a few SCVs, splits a couple of those up, but he is going to lose, or he's going to take some losses here.
Oh, he's taking a lot of losses here, Casper Jones, because look at this. I mean, this is not how this should be working out for him. I mean, as you shouldn't really be taking any damage against a mech player. You should be trying to push as far forward as possible. It should be the other way around. You trying to do damage to a mech player who's more static in his defenses. So that's actually a very big win there for the Evil Genius player, slowing down the income, and is now taking his third base. It's just turned into an orbital, then he will do it. And he's in an amazing position right now. So the goal here from the Evil Genius start is you sit tight, get up to that big supply mark, and then start to crawl across the map. But Polt has other ideas right now. As he moves into the center of the map, what he could do is set up siege to kind of deny that third expansion and kind of hold a location there. But he doesn't even have air control, which is a really big play here, because look at all the Vikings and the Banshees that PuMa has to push this back. Yeah,
PuMa has a great air force assembled. Does Polt even have the brute force to be able to deny that third that you were talking about?
Well, not anymore. I mean, he could have got on position there before it was planted down, but there's no way he can do anything now. There's a sensor tower coming down, and with the Vikings, he even has to be careful of his medivacs. He can't really afford to lose them, and these Banshees could do so much damage sniping off a tank here and there, which I feel we're going to see.
And look at that, the Banshee's already pushing back those units right there. There's no way that Polt can move across that. He stims up trying to pick off some units, but ends up just wasting a bunch of health there. PuMa trying to take a hidden base down to the bottom right-hand corner of the map, though. And if that goes unnoticed for any length of time, that's going to be a huge boon to his army.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the situation with mech versus bio, is that you could almost compare it to Zerg versus anybody. You always need to be a base ahead. But the roles are being reversed now with that hidden expansion, and the sensor tower is a fantastic addition, because as mech, actually, hold that thought. Medivac is going down by that Viking, but the thing is, though, as mech is, your army is always in one location. You can't really spread it across multiple sides, because then you just get rolled over by stim. So the sensor tower actually provides defensive structure, and especially when you have Vikings, if any drops actually do come, you have more than enough reaction time to get in there to snipe those medivacs before any potential drops can come.
And it doesn't look like Polt has any presence in the air right now. No, he could lose a lot of Marines here in the middle of these Blue Flame Hellions, as PuMa doing a bit of damage there, pulling back to that siege tank line, though, threatening with those air units as well, as he will be able to pick off potentially a couple more medevacs, and indeed he does, threatening with those Blue Flame Hellions once again to keep the Marines at bay. However, Polt running through the back does pick off a couple of those Hellions right away.
Oh, this is such fantastic play here from PuMa, because Hellions at this stage of the game, when you'll play mech, they're almost free units, because, I mean, minerals, you don't need minerals, you need gas, so he's just using them so efficiently, and here comes this drop, undetected. There's absolutely nothing in the main base here, no turrets, no detection.
Oh no.
Dear God, this is so rough here for Polt.
And Polt's army is completely out of position, moving up towards the third of PuMa, and a lot of SCVs are going to die back at home already. PuMa doing some damage with his own siege tanks. Polt just going to try and brute force his way up the ramp, but already PuMa has a lot of units in position. I don't think that Polt is going to find a lot here. That siege tank line is just so good.
Oh man, this is just amazing play here from the Evil Genius player, because he's just holding every different front. He's doing so much damage with these Hellions drops, which should never happen. And he's held the tank line, he's held that third base, and as he sees the retreat on the sensor tower, he knows this is the time. This is the time that push is going to come towards that third base location. Very smart play here with the supply depots to actually create a wall to slow it down. But as you said also, that expansion in the bottom right, undetected, is also mining gas from it briefly here as well. But this push is just incredibly strong. As long as he's not caught and sieged and gets set up in position, that's actually almost an unbreakable force.
Yeah, that has happened, though. We've seen Polt take advantage of games like that with good maneuverability from bio units able to burst through tanks that are unsieged. Right now, he's moving around with a task force over to the third. He's pulling those units apart. Does Polt want to try and flank this? He's setting up with a siege line now. PuMa already in place. The rest of the bio units actually pulling back for Polt as he's just losing medevac after medevac.
The Vikings are just allowing the Banshees to pick off tank by tank here, and there is a little area, I feel, for these Marauders to stim in potentially and start to do damage to that third base, and PuMa's trying to move across tanks to cover the ramp, but there is a small area which is not covered, and I'm not sure if Polt realizes, but he is getting pushed slowly back here. Air dominance playing a massive factor here.
Yeah, he's actually being pushed into this tiny little corner, and those Siege Tanks making their way up. He is on Siege, though. Polt going to move forward with the rest of his units. Does he have enough bio here, or are the Siege Tanks from PuMa going to prove to be too strong? PuMa actually losing a ton of those Siege Tanks.
Oh my god, he was actually caught on Siege there, and he loses that incredible stance, and he was actually looking at his Vikings. Oh my god, do I land them, do I not? Because does he land them and try to hold the tank line and sacrifice everything, or does he try to rebuild? This expansion in the bottom right, still undetected, could still be the saving grace here, but it looks like a single Marine is going to scout that out, and PuMa getting caught on Siege, man, actually cost him so much.
Yeah, as now he's down significantly in supply, down by 40, whereas he was equal or up on that. And look at that! Polt does spot that expansion down at the bottom right, at the same time moving some units up to the top left-hand corner. PuMa's so far ahead in this game, it's so many points, but thrown away there by one unsiege. Here come the rest of the bio units making their way up. Is there enough siege tanks here from PuMa this go-round? Pulls a lot of SCVs off the line to try and buffer some of that damage and allow his tanks to work. Polt just overrunning that force, though, still up by 50 supply. Even going to sacrifice the rest of his units to make sure all the tanks are destroyed.
Oh, one mistake as a mech player and you say goodbye to that army, which is almost impossible to replenish. And now we see Polt moving up towards his third base. He has so many reinforcements. You can lose units as the bio player. They're much more replenishable. And as he holds a position on this third base, he also does know about that bottom right expansion as well. This command center has to be pulled up. He might even get sniped before retreating to the main.
Boom,
and this is looking so bad here.
It really is. Now down by 70 supply. PuMa just trying to make a last stand there in between his natural and his third, but Polt just has free reign over the entire map, and at his leisure can go down to the bottom right and pick off that expansion if he wants.
Yeah, he's going to go down now, and once that goes down, we're going to see, he's only on 2 bases after losing that bottom right expansion, and he has to do something here, and at the same time, we do see a little bit of pressure from Polt, but he's taking the map now. He can just sit and contain on the Zelnaga towers. He actually doesn't even need to push anymore as long as this bottom right expansion goes down, which of course it's going to.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to fall here in just a second. Mass repair, but it's not going to be enough. The upgrade's pretty good for Polt. Stims up one more time. Just a few hit points remaining and the planetary fortress falls.
Oh my god, this is so bad. I mean, it went so good, but so bad, so incredibly fast by losing those units in the center.
No kidding.
And now he's stuck. I mean, he needs to take a third base again, but he can't now because all his money has to go into his army. Look at the supply in the top right, 97 versus 171. And Polt, even though was looking a little bit shaky in this game, manages to pull that significant victory. That single fight in the middle actually determined the entire outcome of this map.
And PuMa just really not doing any mining whatsoever. He's trying to float another command center over to his third right now, but as soon as he does so, that's going to come under fire from Polt, who's already making his way up. There's the stim. Going to try and pick off that orbital command. The tanks sieging themselves up, and now finally he's forced into attacking some units. Orbital command does fall, though. There's just one command center left over now for PuMa.
Oh, Polt is now just suffocating him. He's just keeping him away from expanding, losing a few units in trade, but replenishing them at the same time here. And now I feel that he's in an all-in situation here. PuMa has to just go for it. He's going to kill off this small little army, but at the same time, a counterattack into the natural. There is a planetary fortress, sorry. Well, look how fast that goes down versus +3 Marauders.
There it is, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100, and the planetary fortress is going to fall. The SCV's going to take the brunt of the damage from here on out. There's the GG. Polt takes game number 1.
And even though you said, and we've looked at the statistics, this isn't his strongest matchup, he managed to pull a very important victory here going into the first game of Group D.
Yeah.
And we saw